What's good, Chicago? This is Kahlief here. A couple weeks ago, I got the chance to go check out the Outer Worlds from Obsidian and Private Division. I'm super excited about this game, and I got a chance to talk to Carrie Patel, who's their senior narrative designer. Super fun conversation with her. I had a blast talking to those folks. Let us know what you think about the video in the comments below. Definitely check out our other video. There's all gameplay coming up soon, and we'll see you in a bit. What's good, everybody in Chicago? Your boy Kahlief here. We are here in beautiful, sunny Santa Monica. Although we are inside right now, we're hanging out, checking out one of my most anticipated games, The Outer Worlds. I'm super excited. We have Carrie here from the narrative team. How are you doing?
I'm great, thank you.
First of all, I'm super excited. So I remember getting a chance to check out things and seeing a quick behind doors conversation around the game at E3 this year, and now getting some time in with the game, getting some chances to be able to actually play the game. First of all, I am so more hyped than I was even when I got a chance to check it out before. It is in this whole other realm of dopeness that I am super excited for. One of the things that the game is super anticipated about the game is about just how great the story is going to wind up being, how you're hitting these wonderful notes in terms of story and building out this huge world that you have. When you kind of started the process of thinking about how you want the game to be and how you kind of want the story kind of be shared with the players, what were some of the things that you were kind of thinking about initially about getting the story to the player and also kind of bridging out and broadening out and scoping out the world?
So The Outer Worlds, like, a lot of the games we make, is something we think of as a classic Obsidian RPG. And a big component of that is story, but it's also a very player-driven story. And so we want players to have control over the way they build their characters, both mechanically, in terms of flavor. And we also want players to have a big role in driving where the story goes, determining, the fate of this setting, getting involved in all these different conflicts around the Halcyon system and, deciding what happens in many cases. And so for us, with any story we build, we want to find, what's the way to make the player a free agent? What's the way to give them an opportunity or multiple opportunities to influence the direction of the story, to make their mark on this world, and to really make this gameplay experience their own. And so that combined with this sense of, dark humor, which hopefully you saw some of. This is obviously a very, corporate-run future, so there are a lot of opportunities in there to find stuff that's funny and a little bit frightening, too.
I love the tongue-in-cheek stuff that's happening already in the time that I've been able to play it, and it feels like you're all nailing that stuff really, really well. Like it is a lot of tongue-in-cheek and a little bit of jabbing, both figuratively and literally in the game, at both the players, your companions, and also the folks that you wind up meeting in the world.
By the hand of fate and my own cunning skill, I run this station. The Marauders may have other plans, and since my hired hands have clearly turned idle, it appears I have need of you. As my newest contractor, you may call me the Broker.
Or we can call you Hiram, on account of that's your damn name, and doubly on the account of the Broker being a dumbass alternative.
What's the kind of thing that you always want to nail when you are kind of bringing a new character, one that doesn't have lore, one that doesn't necessarily have a character that people know, since you're building this character from scratch? What's one of the things you always kind of want to nail when you're thinking about introducing that character not only to the player but to the outer world as well? No pun intended, but that totally is the way that it wound up coming out.
I think two big questions are and we're talking about NPCs, I presume, how does this character fit in the setting? And also, how do they fit in the player's, questing experience? And so whatever we build for the character is going to come from those two questions. And so, hopefully, I know a lot of y'all played through Fallbrook just now, so you get a sense, journeying through a city or a location like that of hopefully a community with, common concerns, common issues, and, this idea that sort of everybody has a role there. And so that's going to be part of it. And then again, is this person giving the player a quest? Does that mean, they want the player's help with something? Are they trying to prevent the player from doing something? And all of these different combinations of factors give us opportunities as narrative designers and level designers as well to think about, what's an interesting player-facing scenario to set up for the player. What's this person doing when you walk into the room, and what's a way to draw the player into their story immediately, and to give the player interesting opportunities to start interacting with them as a character.
One of the things that I really am excited about is now that I have these two companions with me throughout the story, I was a little bit stuck at first kind of walking through the space because we had gotten a chance to kind of see a little bit of things that we can't talk about. But once we got a chance to kind of dig into the gameplay itself, and then my companions were with me, I love the fact that, one of the things you always find in these kind of larger open worlds is that you have to trek a long time to go to another place to be able to get a quest or to get some new information. And I love the fact that my own characters, my own companions had their own stories and had their own wants. And that was a way to kind of get new quests to be able to do.
Hey, got a favor to ask you. Figure while we're out here in the wilderness anyhow, we might stop in on an old friend of mine. You don't seem the type to run off and get yourself killed, and I could use the help.
Can you talk a little bit about, what the decision-making process was around that?
So for our companions in the Outer Worlds, we really wanted them to feel like your crewmates. So they're characters that you're going to pick up all around the system, various different locations and various different circumstances. And they're all, if you allow them to, they're all going to join your crew for different reasons. And you're going to have, different relationships with them, and they'll have different relationships with one another. And so we really wanted to build out almost this Firefly-esque sense of, all these different people who have kind of come together on this ship, around this particular captain, who in this case is the player character. And that they're on their own journeys as well. And so they'll have things to say to one another as you're exploring the world, which you saw. They'll sometimes have things to say to other NPCs that you meet in the world. Characters that they may have relationships with, or just, may have something to say about what's going on with that NPC's story. And so, our goal was really just to build out their content, to make them feel alive and to make them feel a part of the world and a part of the experience that you're having.
One of the cool world building things I love is just even in the loading screens, you have all this kind of really cool propaganda art that's a part of the world. When you're going through and talking to the folks who are on the art team specifically and saying, hey, I have this idea, or we have this idea of how we want the world flavor to be, what's the kind of coalescing around, making this cohesive, both visual and narrative decisions and story?
So I think one of the flavors we really wanted to bring out, and our art team, especially our concept art there, did an amazing job with it, was this sort of Gilded Age of space exploration. So, you see some of that in the artistic stylings of a lot of these images. And also, again, that strong corporate culture. So, some of these things are, diagrams of some of the flora and fauna around the Halcyon system, and some of them are also advertisements. And, the images themselves look very beautiful and appealing and have like this painterly quality to them. But then you read what they're advertising, and there's a bit of a sort of turn of the century flavor in terms of kind of how they're styled. But then I think something that's hopefully very relatable to a lot of modern audiences about, oh yeah, that's how you advertise a pig that drops cysts off of its body, and they're supposed to be appetizing.
It is a little bit of the Sizzler effect in some ways, where it is like, this thing isn't really good for you in some places, but it's also, part of just the way that we all have decided to kind of coalesce around that stuff. One of the other parts of the game that I'm really appreciating and digging is the combat parts of the game. It feels super good. I didn't actually even expect it to feel as good as it did. It's hard to kind of do in these larger world games. Did any of the narrative bits kind of help to inform the folks who were on the combat team?
So, we try to, whether it's story, gameplay, world building, obviously, develop these things in tandem with one another. I suppose to our combat specifically, we wanted to give the player lots of options about how to play the game, obviously. So, as you saw, there are different kinds of weapon skills that you can put points into and that you can specialize and master. Personally, I really like playing hybrid stealth combat characters, so I'll get like a melee or a long range and sneak up to someone and go crazy. But I think in terms of the narrative ties there, it's just sort of about thinking, well, who's the player in this setting? Again, they can come from a lot of different kinds of backgrounds, have a lot of different, bents to their own story. And so how would we make that playable in game and, give the player a lot of options to, design the kind of character they want to play.
I mean, I really like the flaw system too, which is a thing that I'm sure we'll be able to talk a little bit about more in the future. Talking about characters again and talking about story, I know you can't go into any super details, but is there some specific kind of faction or element of not surprise, but element of storytelling that you kind of want folks to be able to definitely be able to check out and kind of understand that is the thing that wraps around this Outer Worlds world? What's the thing that you want people to kind of be the touchstone that they come away with?
I think just our satirical look at corporate culture. Again, as you saw, there's a lot of humor there, but there's also, I think, some stuff that's going to feel very resonant and hopefully interesting for people to dig into.
Yeah. I am super excited. I have not been this excited for a very long time. I knew when I was coming to this event that I was going to be amazingly hyped for what I was going to be able to play, and it is living up to all my expectations and more. Carrie, thank you so very much for hanging out with us today. Thank you all for having me. Chicago, we will see you all in a little bit. We have more Outer Worlds. We have some gameplay stuff to show you as well, so we'll do that in a little bit.